right, hello everyone. Back to Falls Count Anywhere. I am John with, of course, the historian, our wrestling everything, Chris. How you doing, Chris?
Good. How are you, John? We're still in the frozen tundra here, huh?
Yeah, last night was I think we dodged a bullet though, huh? It was going to be worse from what it sounded like, but we still got some snow. Like, I haven't been out yet. I'm going to be out here in a minute to see how heavy it is.
Yeah, still cold though. I hate winter.
Yeah, we got another. I think the groundhog is right this year. We're gonna be frozen because it's next week even. We got to get past St. Patrick's Day and maybe we'll get a break.
To
I
me,
don't
it's
know.
always 6 more weeks, no matter what.
Yeah, the groundhog. Yeah, and people ought to give the groundhog a break though too. I mean, there's no reason to get after him. But you see, Charlie's not here. Charlie Turner, the great host of this show, and I'm glad I'm able to sit in for him. He is unfortunately had to work on a Saturday. I hate that, but you got to do what you got to do.
Yes.
You know,
But we also, in the tradition, we have a great guest here, John.
we sure do. We've been waiting, obviously, me and you. I know for sure, Charlie, if he was here also. But you know how we always say Saturdays for wrestling, and it is. When I was a kid, you were a kid wrestling on CHCH TV, Maple Leaf Wrestling. I think you could watch it at 11 a.m. and at 7 p.m. if you wanted. I believe on Saturdays, if I'm remembering correctly. I should have looked it up without just saying it. But
12,
this,
1, something like that. Yeah.
yeah, something like, or maybe one inside. I don't know. But CHCH TV, Maple Leaf Wrestling, the whole day. It always kicked the day off perfectly on a Saturday morning for me in the 70s, and you too.
Right.
We have a great guest. He's a historian just like you, Chris. So this is going to be fun.
Yep.
All the way from Manitoba, and it is Wes Maidment, and here he is. I hope.
Hey guys, how are you today?
Good. How are you, Wes? Thank you for joining us.
Hey, no problems. Thanks for having me on. It's going to be so much fun to talk with you guys about, oh gosh, what?
Yeah, right.
Roller derby.
Yeah.
Well,
movie
I like that
soundtracks.
too. I like old classic roller derby too,
Yeah.
but not as much as this. Classic pro wrestling, right up our alley.
It's what turns my crank every day since I can remember, which is bizarre, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I got hooked at 5 years old, 1980. John before me. We can go on and on. We can sit here and talk all day and night, guys. I
We
mean,
could. We could.
but right now we're on the clock. We're on the show, and John, why don't you start it off?
Oh well, Wes. Maple Leaf Wrestling is just. I mean, for me, I think it was really my. Let me play something though. Let me just play you the voice of something that I just. As soon as I hear it, I become probably 8 years old again, and it's great times. Hold on, listen to this. This match is unbelievable, but I'm not playing the whole match, just the beginning.
Your attention, please, ladies and gentlemen. Your attention, please. This is the final event of the evening. One fall or the 10 p.m. curfew for the Canadian Heavyweight Wrestling Championship. This bout, as you can see, will be fought in a steel cage. Introducing first in the blue corner, the former All-Star of the Canadian Football League, weighing 301 pounds, Angelo King Kong Mosca. His opponent in the red corner, from Iran, weighing 260 pounds, the Canadian Heavyweight Wrestling Champion, Hossein the Great Arab. Special National Wrestling Alliance referee for this event, George Scott. One fall or the 10 p.m. curfew.
Love
Awesome.
it. Absolutely love it.
Awesome. It's surprising you see George Scott in the ring there to see how big George was. George was no shrimp, that's for sure. He doesn't get enough credit at all. Obviously, for booking that Mid-Atlantic, it was fantastic. But yeah, Norm Kimber, come on, that's the only voice I know from Maple Leaf Gardens, because it's before my time frame. I think the last person changed in Toronto ring announcer was Jerry Hiff. I think he was like 68 or 69. He stopped.
Yeah,
We couldn't have Norm Kimber on the show now, right, guys? That would be
all those guys, Billy Red Lions, the whole bunch.
Billy Red.
What a
Yeah.
geez, I when I watched that last night, I was like I said, I can't get over how I guess it's kind of like music. I know we were talking before the show, Wes. So I know you love music, and
Yep.
it just it transforms me. I mean, all of a sudden, there's no more internet for me. I don't know. I'm back to the beautiful time when there was none of this. I mean, I love this, but I also sometimes, the whole thing is a little much.
It's so bizarre because, and this blows my mind being my age, that as much as I love this and I couldn't get it out there 40 years ago or 30 years ago, so all of this has brought us together. We would have never met. And Jesse and I, my podcast partner, we would have never met. All these things that have come together to create the bringing back wrestling history to what it should be. I've made the point of a few different places saying, baseball has thousands of books, golf, football, they have thousands of books of history, of records, of stories and things, and we have to keep wrestling history alive the best we can, and it'll melt away because it's not, quote, one of the big ones, right? Even though we know how much money it's generated over the last 70 years in arenas throughout North America, millions and millions and millions of dollars.
No doubt. And
Yeah,
now,
like Hamilton Cops Coliseum, Toronto's Maple Leaf Gardens. We talked about the old Buffalo Memorial Auditorium. I mean, this all area was and still is,
wow,
let's say, a hotbed for
our convention center, right, Chris? Or the Niagara Falls Convention
Niagara
Center.
Falls, New York Convention Center and the Niagara Falls Arena in Canada, right? I mean,
Yeah,
So they
Maple
destroyed it.
Leaf TV tapings and everything.
The bringing of history alive is so important, and I circle myself here, as you probably do, Chris, with, if you want to call it, my stuff. And yeah, okay, I mean, I got hundreds of little clippings like this, right? And it's what the genesis of what I do. Like, this is really the genesis of what I do. These little things that I clipped out of the newspaper, 30, 40 years ago or whatever, and that evolved into I put out this booklet back in the day in the 80s, Toronto wrestling history, and it just clippings. And then and as the internet came, and as this kind of medium has arisen, here we are. It's fantastic to be able to do this.
Absolutely.
Yes,
now
it's
this
great.
is your this is your podcast, the National Wrestling Clipping Alliance, correct, Wes?
Correct. We have a podcast channel on YouTube, and we have 5 Facebook pages now that are attached to this. So we've created the Wild Man, which is one of the pages, a tribute to Dave McKegney, who wrestled a lot in Buffalo for Pedro Martinez in the 60s. We've got Ontario Wrestling Clippings of the Past, which basically focuses on Ontario. We have the National Wrestling Clippings Alliance homepage, which is clippings and information from all over the world. And we just opened up a tribute page to Ric Flair and a tribute page to British Columbia, Canada, which is the most western province. And I'm hoping to go right across Canada and have Facebook pages for every area of Canada, which is going to be so much fun. And there's enough stuff to do it.
Yes, awesome. Too recently, of course, the Ric Flair, right? Nature Boy. In fact, Norm Kimber's voice, right? From Minneapolis, Minnesota, Nature Boy Ric Flair.
To see him for the first time, on TV, let alone live.
Right.
And I know we were just briefly discussing when Mid-Atlantic started coming up to this area. It was beyond compare. It was just completely beyond compare. You guys would know, watching the Sheik and his reign of terror and the assorted people that were always under him. And there's nothing wrong with that for the time frame. But when we started seeing Mid-Atlantic on TV, and I think it was out of Buffalo first, and then it switched to a Toronto station. Oh my God. Steamboat, Snuka, Flair, Mulligan, just it went on and on and on. These guys were so famous in the magazines that we would have bought, yet we had never seen them on TV because of proximity, right? The Mid-Atlantic just didn't come up here. And when they, being a fan at that time was so crazy, going from the Sheik era to, come on, really, the Sheik versus, let's pick anybody, Sheik versus anybody, 3-minute match, 8 minutes before the match, 8 minutes after the match. Not denying his entertainment value, but comparing it to Steamboat and Flair going in the ring for 45 minutes straight, one fall each, time limit draw. Come on, holy smokes!
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the hour Broadways with Flair against anybody, Dusty. Yeah, just great. I mean, yeah. So for us, right, John, I could say that Maple Leaf was on CHCH channel 11, like between say 11 and 1. It used to change times for some reason. NWA Mid Atlantic was on channel 4, WIBB, 3 o'clock every Saturday.
Buffalo, yeah.
From Charlotte there. And then, of course, WWF was on at midnight on WWOR out of New York. So, I mean, Saturdays were great. And that's why we do this show on Saturday, because it used to be Saturday.
That's a tribute to the shows that were always on Saturdays, over the years,
Yeah,
right.
And it's been ever since. And this is what I didn't realize until, Chris, you got a hold of me and we decided to do this podcast over a year ago now is, Saturday for me was Hockey Night in Canada forever. And it still is. But I didn't really, but that wouldn't start till about 8 p.m. back when I was a kid, Eastern. Yeah. But not until you, Chris, come back along and we got to connect again, did I realize how much wrestling was Saturday. I mean, it was really, even to this day as a grown man with my own grandkids, it's unbelievable how I feel when I get to a certain time of the day. That it's like, okay, it's time, but there's really nothing anymore. But you know what I mean? It's time for wrestling. Yeah. And I think some of those guys might not even realize how much they meant to us, like it was really something.
Right, I'm going to stop you right there. Just, but real quick, Wes, we got to tell you when we started this podcast again over a year ago, because I said to John, I said, let me come on your sports show and just talk some classic wrestling. You know how much it's just a big audience and it will never die. And we morphed into this podcast over a year now, and with some amazing guests like yourself and such former wrestlers and announcers we've had a pleasure of having on. Speaking of Mid-Atlantic, though, Wes, we got to tell you when we had on, which I got a phone call from, which I almost didn't answer, Mr. David Crockett. Like, David Crockett calls me. I'm nobody. Yeah. And it was so awesome. And to have him on our show and ask him all kinds of questions, I mean.
I that must have been amazing, yes.
Yeah, great.
Having a wrestler on is fine and dandy, but when you get someone from behind the scenes, it's a completely different world.
David Crockett.
A lot of times wrestlers are going to say, I did this and I did that and I did this and I did that. And not all of them are like that, but some are.
David Crockett, Terry Sullivan, Mick Karch, Gennard Soley. I mean, they're so great. Great guys.
Terry Sullivan is an awesome guy. I like Terry.
We're bringing him back on April 1st from a year ago when he was on with us. So usually around WrestleMania time, because we talk current stuff too. But Go ahead, John. I know you've been asking him. We've been waiting for this, Wes. You're our man to answer this question, John. We've been waiting for over a year.
Yeah, we've been searching high and low all over Ontario. I don't know if he's alive or dead. I'm not sure. This man, boy, he was my favorite growing up, and this is insane. But when he'd come out and he would fight the Andre and get steamrolled, it was always fun. The silent one, Brian Mackney. Can we find him? Do we know anything about him, Wes?
He's still around. He still lives in Hamilton, as far as I know. I can connect you with someone who knows him and can get him closer to you than I can. I'm sure he knows of our pages, but I have conversed with him actually 3 summers ago. I didn't talk with him. We conversed. Yeah. At a big get together in Mississauga, with a whole pile of wrestlers came out, which is really, really nice. A former wrestler, Bernie Tiger Cat Livingston, who was more of a local guy, but he held a big do at his house, and there was a lot of boys came out, and that was a lot of fun. And Brian McNee was there, and he was a bit of an underneath guy, but as I always say, yes, maybe I didn't like Bruno Sammartino, just say maybe I didn't like his style or whatever, but I never got in the ring. I never did it. I'm never going to complain about someone who was a carpenter because they got in the ring, they did it, and they entertained in their own way, and that's what Brian McNee did.
Absolutely. I mean, I love.
And we
I don't
never
know
knew he was really silent either, huh, John?
Yeah, is he truly
Yes.
hearing impaired?
Yeah.
Is he?
Imagine that, wrestling those big guys too.
I know.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
He
The
but think-
spoiler, Big John
Maple-
Stud.
Maple Leaf Wrestling, though, for me, they brought out some really good enhancement talent, I guess we call it. I mean, some of the guys, like, I mean, I remember Barry O. I remember didn't I hear Mike Sharp? Everybody. I mean, there were some great
Johnny Canine, Bob and Joe Marcus, the K brothers. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Marcus brothers were another great couple of guys out of Hamilton. One of them did really well, went to Texas and traveled a little bit. The other one didn't travel, and those guys are still around. So I mean, I don't have contact with them, but I definitely can get you Brian McNee if you need to.
Oh,
John would love it, huh?
Holy cow! Are you kidding? This guy, it makes no sense. I hate to sound like this because we do a thing on here where we always do a thing for enhancement talent, no matter where they work, because we think they're great. Because without them,
The jobber of the week.
And this guy, for some reason, growing up, people would boo him sometimes when he'd come in because he'd look at the size of him, and then all of a sudden, he's going to take on Killer Khan or whoever he's going to fight. You know, it'd be outrageous. But I don't know what it was, man. This guy here was one of my favorites. So yeah, I'd love to hook up with this, speak to him. Wow.
I'm really good friends with Tim Gerard, who wrestled also mostly just in the Tunney promotions, but he also made a few trips. He did quite a bit of trips into New York State, and then he worked Mid-Atlantic down in Charlotte for a while. And he's a great guy because he's got some fantastic stories. Traveling with some of the boys, and he traveled actually with Nick DiCarlo for a bit too.
Wow, yeah.
So he'd be able to tell you about your uncle Nick.
Yeah, my wish Uncle Nick.
Yeah.
You know what else got me? And this is something I didn't know, and Chris told me, and I guess I should have known because I love wrestling. I never knew this. I love Dewey Robertson. I loved that he was great, unbelievable, the Canadian champion, the whole thing. I used to love it. I loved the jacket, the robe, whatever. I never knew. Remember, Chris, how shocked I was when I found out he was the missing link?
Yeah.
Please.
Wow.
No one knew. Nobody knew at all. Not that he was wrestling in this area because he wasn't, but you know, I used to get the sheets all the time back in the 80s, and you're missing link, you know, like what? But yeah, there's been a whole pile of missing links in the past. Pampero Firpo was a missing link for a while. And different people have used that gimmick, right? And when we saw him on TV finally, I think we would have seen him maybe. I don't know if you guys got UWF, the Bill Watts promotion.
Yep, he started there.
Yeah, and we saw him and no idea. But when you look back now, you go, "Oh, that's his body for sure." But
the hair,
yeah,
I never knew that for a while either. Right? I thought he just disappeared. You know, a lot of these guys just fall off the map, and but then he was what a great gimmick, and how he got into that was awesome.
And he was such a favorite here, right from, I think he started about 62, 63, something like that. Hit his stride maybe in the 66, 67. Started hanging with Whipper Watson and going on the road with him, and he was a frequent tag team partner. So Dewey was a great, one of the first new Canadian champions. And there's a lot of people who didn't particularly like him. I thought he was great. Strong, half decent body. And he could do like flying drop kicks. He could do flying head scissors, and he could wrestle also because he put his time in, right?
Yeah, to go head to head with Ric Flair on the TV program there too. That was great.
So I have a clipping here of one of the first shows I went to when the Mid-Atlantic guys started coming up here. I'll hold that up there. And actually, Dewey took on Nick Bockwinkel that night.
Wow! Oh, wow!
Which was, and I think it was, they fought to a draw at 10 till 10:30, which was one of my first cards where Mid-Atlantic. It was about a year after the Mid-Atlantic had first started coming up, and I hadn't gone to any shows. I don't know if you guys know, I was a closet wrestling fan. I had no friends who liked wrestling.
Mhm.
So, do you go drinking with your friends when you're 19, or do you go to Maple Leaf Gardens? And
Or do both.
Right. No, I understand. No, I get it. Yeah, I understand that because I told Chris.
I had the money. I had a great job. I could have went to every show. I could
Yeah.
have traveled all over the place and seen shows, but I didn't. And it would have been nice to have seen. This is a clipping from the second NWA card in Toronto, but I don't have the clipping from the first one, which I think was October 1978. But about a year later, October 15th, 79, and I'll just quickly run down the card if you don't mind.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
Snuka, who was the U.S. title champion, against Ric Flair. Backlund against Pat Patterson, which unfortunately was canceled because of time frame. Dewey versus Bockwinkel. Youngblood and Weaver versus Scorpion and Brute Bernard, plus a bunch of others. And today, I do have some pictures. That's you know who that was from that match.
Yep.
And this is one of my favorite pictures that I've ever taken.
I just saw that one.
I'm messing that up there. Hang on.
Yep, I just saw that one online there. Coming up the dressing room, up the ramp towards the squared circle, I believe I said.
And that one is
another one, yeah.
It's just a fantastic picture. And I'm not a photographer, and it wasn't something I always did because I weighed watching the match versus taking pictures. And I've known people who were photographers who sort of, so it's kind of a funny thing. If you take pictures and your pictures all turn out, you get to relive the matches forever. But if you watch the match and you don't take pictures and your memory fades.
I know. Yeah.
So I just would rather watch them. And I got caught up, right? Obviously I got caught up in the matches. So yeah. So I mean, standing there with my camera in my hand watching instead of taking pictures.
Wow.
Yeah, well, we know a great photographer, and he did both. Mr. Scott Romer was on our show, and he's a great guy as well.
Well, think about now. I mean, these guys, you see the kids or younger people now, they go to any event and they're watching it through their phone. I swear they're sitting, they could be front row and they're watching it through another medium, not through their own eyes. It's so bizarre. I've seen it. I've gone to hockey games and I see them watching it. It's weird. It's unreal.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything.
No.
Yeah, and that's why I like wrestling, right? We got to keep this classic wrestling alive because if back then they had you glued to what's going to happen next Saturday.
For sure.
Now you can find stuff out. It's
Well, it's like if you followed Buffalo Championship Wrestling and there was a card tonight. And you don't go, and 11 o'clock rolls around, and you're getting ready for bed. Oh, I'll just hang on a sec. Let me get my and you can watch the highlights, which is yes, it's good for the whole of the thing. Like these guys that are wrestling in Buffalo Championship Wrestling for $50 a night, and I'm not going to knock it. They're getting in the ring, they're doing what they do, and it's good for on the whole. But people have asked, is it ever going to go back? And it'll never go back because the curtain's been lifted, right?
Yeah.
Right. And well, I mean, I give credit to Billy Corgan in the NWA. At least he's trying to keep it studio and somewhat old school. So I give them credit and I enjoy that. But yeah.
Guys, let me we got to take a little commercial. It'll only be about a minute and 50 seconds. If you guys wouldn't mind, I want to take our quick break, couple sponsors, and we'll be back in less than 2 minutes, okay?
Okay.
Yep.
Be right back.
Digits 988 can save a life. If you or someone you know is having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance use crisis, 988 provides connection to free confidential support. There is hope. The Lifeline works. For 24/7 confidential support, just call, text, or chat 988.
Welcome back, and we're with the great historian Wes Maidment. He's also here's his podcast. This is going to be, you guys got to check it out. Let me bring up my little thing here. There you go. The National Wrestling Clipping Alliance, and we're so happy that he joined us today. And thanks for giving us some time on a Saturday. Wes.
Hey, no problems at all. Just about time to turn the TV on to watch CHCH wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah, just about exactly. And of course, we'll continue there. What a great segue, Wes, into continuing with another great voice, right, John? The incomparable Billy Red Lyons.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't have any clips. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
No, I know you don't have any clips.
Oh, okay. So I met Billy Red. I had a really good friend named Terry Dart, and he passed, and but he had been following wrestling since he was, I don't know, in his late teens, from 1958 right up until when he passed. And I tagged along with him because that was my first real friend in wrestling. So I tagged along with him, and he'd say, "Oh, this is Billy Red Lyons. This is my friend Wes. This is Dewey, my friend Wes. This is Chris Tolles. This is my friend Wes." And we met Billy a couple times. One of them was a Greg Oliver book signing, and what a great guy. And even at an advanced age, he still had that super cool voice. And everyone wanted him to say, "Don't you dare miss it," right?
Yes.
He was, when you look back, if you watch videos of him wrestling, he was sleek. Man, oh man, he's probably about 220, much the style of Steamboat sort of physicality, slender, not overly muscular, but man, could he wrestle, and he had a really, really long career.
Yeah, in fact, which I didn't show John yet, but I have from Canadian Big Time Wrestling there with the Detroit promotion. Lord Ethel Layton was the host and commentator. It was Billy Red Lyons and Mickey Doyle against Apophos, a young Lanny and his father Angelo.
So sorry.
Go ahead.
Interesting about that match, and that was actually a tape that the Wild Man Dave McKegney had done in London, Ontario Arena. He was going to have a TV show, and I don't know why it fell apart. He had brought the Sheik's mobile unit down from Detroit, and they taped it. There's also a cage match with the Tiger Jeet Singh and him on that match.
Yes.
And there's Waldo Von Erich versus the Wild Man on that match, also on that card. And for some reason, things just didn't work out. I don't know if the Sheik stiffed him with money, or I have no idea why it didn't. I've never been able to find out why it happened. But yeah, that's a great. I have an actual hard copy of that in a VHS downstairs in my collection, which is treasured immensely. Because one of my first wrestling pages on Facebook was the Wild Man tribute page, and I've had that for like 7 years now. So it's very important in our quote history of the Wild Man.
Yeah, cool. John, yeah. In fact, John I gave him footage of, I think I mentioned it to you too, Wes, a card from Maple Leaf Gardens 1957. The first match was Billy Red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's and he was a talent, and he wrestled everywhere. Really big in the AWA, big in Texas, California, the former UWF or Mid-South, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Tri-States, yeah.
Tri-States, yes.
When when being a kid and stuff, and you're watching, and I'll never forget when Roddy Piper slapped Billy Red.
Yeah,
that had to be the most unbelievable thing I ever seen. The WWF sign fell.
Yep.
Oh my God, that was a hell of a shot too. I mean, what a big man Billy Red was, though. Back then, I didn't realize he even wrestled. I had no idea. And big man, and because he stood right there toe to toe with obviously Piper, and Piper was a great one too.
Don't get me started on Roddy Piper.
No,
I loved him so much.
I know. I miss, they talk about Dusty Rhodes and all this and that, but man, I miss Piper too, Wes.
Yeah. Even in the goofy WWE stuff, well, most people would know, any younger than us would know that only he did Piper's Pit. I mean, he was so big in Mid-Atlantic, whether he was a face or a heel, and he was so good. And man, he could shoot his mouth. Couldn't he do a promo?
Oh yeah. And brought the bagpipes down there into Bradford, Ontario. Him and Snuka against Dewey and Flair.
Yeah.
Oh, what
So
he does to Snuka with the coconut. My God.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Yeah.
I live near a town called Selkirk, Manitoba, and Piper wrestled here when he was starting out. So I've met people have found out through work that I'm a wrestling fan. Oh, I knew Roddy Piper, and of course, everyone knows Roddy Piper, right? So I'll give you a couple little stories. So Roddy Piper used to play bagpipes at funerals for money, and I guess he had a van with some speakers hooked up into it, and he would play inside the van and play the bagpipes.
Oh, what?
Wow.
And another guy told me my dad was a mason, and he also had started the Selkirk pipe and drum corps, or like the marching band thing, right? And supposedly he taught Piper how to play the bagpipes, which, yeah, okay, whatever. I did too, right? Yeah, because he for very early formative years were in Manitoba here, so it's neat to hear everyone around here that's a wrestling fan has a Roddy Piper story.
And if it wasn't for Piper, I mean, the war to settle the score in '84, or whatever it was before WrestleMania comes. If it wasn't for Piper, Hogan can't do anything. I mean, he was unbelievable. I mean, he was as big. I mean, you want to talk about pop culture? He was humongous when I was in 8th grade, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. My God, we loved him. People either loved him or hated him, right? Because he was a misogynist, the whole deal, slapping the women, all this stuff would go on. And he was underrated in a lot of ways, I think.
Yes. He should have been a WWF heavyweight champion in my mind.
And there's no reason why he couldn't have held it. Absolutely.
Right. I mean,
he had all the gifts, right? He could work. He didn't mind bleeding. He could talk his way in and out of absolutely anything. So that would put just asses right in the seats, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, that's crazy. That's, even like I say a month or two, he should have had the belt. David Von Erich should have been an NWA heavyweight champion. I mean, we can go on and on.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy.
Yeah, Piper was unbelievable. And it's funny because in that whole situation, I know this was out in Madison Square Garden, obviously, but that whole war to settle the score time, 84 it's an amazing time for me when I think about it, because that might be the best of time and maybe the worst of time, because at that point it just blows up, right? All of a sudden it goes, and Vince McMahon, it's over. I mean, once that hits MTV,
definitely over.
It's done. I mean, people like my grandmother knew. I mean, I remember people everywhere saying catchphrases, and stuff. And I don't know, because we were talking about Cyndi Lauper. It's funny, before you came on, Wes, we were talking about her. You know how the WWF has, or WWE has, their Hall of Fame, and she's not in it, but she's part of the reason why it all blew up in a lot of ways. So,
and
I don't know.
Like you said, it was sort of the beginning of the end, where we were talking about Mid-Atlantic coming up to Ontario in 78, 79, and it was moving towards big time, right? I mean, they were packing the gardens every 2 weeks. So they're moving towards big time. Piper was part of that until he went over to the WWE. And like exactly what you said, John, when 84 hit, everything exploded, and it was the beginning of the end, if you want to use those terms, right? I see it like that, but someone like Jesse, my podcast partner, who's 35, you don't see it like that. He thinks that's all he thinks of. That's all he knows, right? So, and there's nothing wrong with that, but if you want to look at, these two guys wrestling, or what ended up being after 84, 85, there was hardly any wrestling in any of the matches. There was just stalling and goofy stuff, and it was the beginning of the end. But you can't take it away that was so important. Lauper and Piper and Albano and Wendy Richter were hardly even blips on the thing, but they were all part of it.
I'd love to get her on the show. Yeah. What else? Another thing is too, Wes, we talk about the NWA being in Maple Leaf Gardens until 84, and then WWF. Vince probably made a deal with Jack Tunney there and started having WWF in Maple Leaf Gardens from the end of '84 on. That also was a weird transition.
Yeah, and the fans. I remember reading letters in the Wrestling Observer newsletter and saying, the fans will be leaving this stuff by droves. They're not going to come. The Toronto fans know better than that. And I went to a card once. It was Hogan versus Terry Funk, and they had put articles in the newspaper saying, Hulk's knees are really, really bad. This probably could be the title change night. So I bought a ticket. I was so far away. It was like a million miles away up in the end blues or something at the end. And when Hogan came out, you can't take that away. You cannot take that away.
Yeah, even when he was in Niagara Falls, Buffalo, the pop and like the Road Warriors would come out. The pop was just amazing.
It was berserk, that kind of thing. As an older fan, yes, I was caught up in the emotion of it, thinking that, well, maybe I'll see a title change. And I never saw Terry Funk wrestle, so that would be cool to say, at least I saw him, right? But oh my gosh, the pop was crazy, and the Gardens was packed. There had to have been 16,000 people in that.
Yeah, I have a lot of those cards on DVD. Yes, okay. Just awesome. And yeah, Andre the Giant versus Kamala in the steel cage, Maple Leaf Gardens. That's.
I was lucky enough to see that match.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was pretty good. That was unfortunate. That was the first time and the only time I think I saw Andre the Giant, but it was still interesting to see. And I have put pictures of that. Actually, I could dig them out, but I won't. But I could share with you guys if you want.
We were going to ask you. We have on our normal show we do Sheik tweets because the Iron Sheik is just so funny on Twitter each and every week. Yes. Do any Iron Sheik? Well, you already talked about Andre the Giant, but any Iron Sheik memories or stories, Wes?
I think I only saw him once, and it was versus Mosca, and it was on a WW whatever card. It was like fourth match. They were trying to rekindle that heat from the
end of '84 there, I think.
Yeah, and it was it was brutal. It was pretty brutal. They were mailing it in that night. I liked him. I thought he was great, and he was so much better in Mid-Atlantic when he first came on the scene. He was really exciting, and yeah, I'd lived the era of the Sheik, the original Sheik, but he was different because he talked. His matches actually had some wrestling in them, and when he was a suplex machine back at the time too, right?
Yeah, the back play.
I want to ask you about another guy that you just mentioned, and it was funny. I went to Maple Leaf Gardens a lot between 1985 and 1989. I watched. I might have went. Now, the Maple Leafs aren't. We know what they are, but they made the playoffs those years kind of regularly. Mm. So I went to every home playoff game for those years. I luckily got to come up there, and it was great. But Harold Ballard used to put the Ticats symbol on the boards, I think just to rub it into the Toronto fans because the Argonauts. So I hated the Ticats as a kid. And then we talk about King Kong Mosca, right? The Hamilton. What about him, man? I guess he wasn't that great of a wrestler, but what a just presence. Unbelievable Mosca.
I liked Angelo Mosca because he put a lot of emotion into his everything he did. Maybe, yes, he wasn't the greatest. He's a big guy. But he started out in Ontario on the backwater circuit and then just evolved into something that was King Kong or ping pong or whatever. So one of the first cards I went to at Maple Leaf Gardens, it was him versus Chief Peter Maivia. And that was a feud that was going on in the AWA at the time. And it wasn't even a year later that he was headlining Toronto as the Canadian champion. Great guy. I liken him to Bruno. I'm not a big Bruno fan, but I didn't get to see him live, so I can't say. But just what I've seen, tons of emotion, tons of personality. Yeah, a little bit of stomping and kicking and a couple of arm drags and not much else, but the emotion was there. And Mosca did a great, serious, if I don't kill him, he's going to kill me, kind
Yeah.
of thing. Promo.
Yeah, the buildup.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Mosca, I got footage of Mosca, right, John? I think I showed you Mosca and Killer Khan as a tag team. Imagine that.
God.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right. A
Khan
friend
was
of
just
ours,
screaming.
a friend of ours of the show, Scott, and I hope I can see this. I probably didn't blow it up good enough. This is from 1980. It's a card from 1987 in Newmarket, and unfortunately, there it is. I wish I could read. All I know is, and this is pathetic of me, shows you how unprepared I am. The top match, whoever, I can't see it, Chris and Wes, whoever it was.
Jake the Snake against Honky Tonk.
Yeah.
Okay, and they had to put in Bruno Sammartino. I thought that was incredible because because Jake the Snake couldn't be there.
And surprised Bruno was there.
Right.
Bizarre that Bruno was there for some reason. Now, I think 89, was that 89, 87? He may have been here for some sort of something to do with the wrestling. I can't remember. I don't know why he was here. I have
It's
no
also
idea
when
why
he
Bruno-
attacked when the Steamboat Savage angle, and Bruno was pissed off with Savage in the locker room. He went after him because Steamboat was hurt, crushed larynx.
Yeah.
And but I also heard the story was, remember when he brought his son in, they called him Bruno Sammartino Jr., David Sammartino, came into the WWF there, the end of 84, 85, 86. But for some reason, David left. So then Bruno had to basically fill David's contracts and his shoes as a wrestler. Like he fought Piper, he fought Savage.
Yeah.
So that's why Bruno was still around there, like wrestling until 87.
What could possibly be transpired for David to go to the AWA? Like it's just bizarre, right?
Yeah.
But the wrestling world is bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Wes, real quick, I want to ask you something. Do you watch anything new? No, me neither.
Jesse sends me stuff to watch, so I'll watch highlights or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say. I just don't.
Yeah, no, I think we don't. Chris, we keep up on it because
I keep up on it, and we mentioned,
yes, I get it. Yeah,
right. I keep up on it, but do I watch each and every week like I used to back even in the early 2000s? No.
Wes, did you see the or any clips of it or anything? Flair's hopefully last match.
I watched a few bits of clips of it. I have my thoughts about it. Good for him for being able to do it. What if he had got hurt?
Right.
That's all I can say. What if he had got hurt? Thankfully, he didn't get hurt. But also, I liken him now to the Sheik, the original Sheik, who doesn't know when to stop being his gimmick.
Yeah. We got together and watched it. Me and Chris and our other co-host Charlie, and it got sad, I thought, for a little bit. I mean, you watching the guys at ring. Remember how surreal it seemed? You had the Undertaker at ringside. You had all these guys at ringside, and you could tell they wanted it to stop. You could just see the look on their face.
Yeah.
Because there was a point where he laid there, and it was.
I thought something was
like, I don't know if he can't. I don't know what's happening. It was hard to watch, but I hear he's coming back. I don't know, Chris. You guys, he's talking about doing it again.
I don't know, man. I'd say he better not. But it's funny though how he is out of the ring, with talking and still doing his promos for stuff. He's so much better at that and his own podcast that he was in the ring. So
it's I guess you could say, well, if people are going to buy tickets, why wouldn't you? If you're going to make, if he needs money, and like some of the guys do need money, and obviously we know what his lifestyle has been like, right? If he needs money and he's going to make, I saw something the other day. It said $300,000. I can't believe that he made $300,000 for that. I'm
sure he made a lot more with the promotion and the selling and this and that.
With everything, maybe altogether. But I don't know.
That was terrible.
I'm a mark. No ifs, ands, or buts. But I'm a mark from like 76 to 96, if you want to put it like that, right? I thought he could do no wrong. People complained about, yes, his TV matches were repetitive and blah blah blah, but It's Ric
Right.
Flair. It's like he
Right.
is one of the top 5
agree.
guys as wrestlers that people will remember. They will remember Ric Flair. No,
Ric Flair, Bob Backlund, Nick Bockwinkel, Harley Race. I mean, and Hogan's not even
the tall
near.
blonde guy with his kind of going bald. What's his name?
Yeah, he's not even on that list for me either, guys. I mean, even one from our backyard, the sensational destroyer,
Oh
Mr.
gosh,
Dick
yeah.
Dyer.
Yeah.
I mean, so many greats, Wes. You're right. So many greats that are at the top of that list than
Definitely.
these other people are.
Yeah.
Unfortunately to say, but yeah, like, so, we were growing up. I mean, look at Bob Backlund. He went through all those guys and he was still the WWF champion for like 4 years. I mean,
He wasn't my cup of tea either, but man, he could wrestle, and he was a physical specimen for sure.
And I never understood the fan that don't want to believe. Like, you know what I mean? You got to believe. Why would you go to the fight not to believe? I mean, you got to watch it and believe what's happening there. No matter what, it don't matter. You got to believe, or else there's no point.
Remember, John and Wes, we're going to laugh. He laughed at us. Nikita Koloff, we had on the show.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
a great guy. And he was laughing at us that we bought into the Flair angle and all that stuff. But yeah, you're right. I mean, if you don't believe it.
What? Why am I there? I got to believe. For that little short time, I need to believe. And then I can go walk away. But
I had the conversation with someone just yesterday, and they said, I hate when people say wrestling's fake. And I said, there's nothing worse than it's like saying dancing isn't real. You're still dancing. These guys are still getting in the ring. They're still being physical. It's not like they're never touching. It's not like a pile driver is digitally instrumented on the screen. It's not. It's real. It's not fake. Yes, who cares about the storyline? Blah 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 blah. That's just what it is. Wrestling is not fake. It's never been fake, ever, ever, ever. And it's
Right.
It's just so interesting to have just a fan. We were talking just out of nothing. I hate when people say wrestling's fake, and it's like it slaps you in the face because it's just not.
no, not at all. It's always and I don't mind. Like I said, I can. It always bothered me when we'd sit down and watch. I would, other friends and stuff. You're watching wrestling, and they just wouldn't stop with that. And I would think to myself, why are you here then, man? You got to enjoy the show. I mean, it's part of it. It's part of it. It's no different than, I guess, watching I mean, it's better than it. It's better than this. But a movie. I mean, you get into it for the 2.5 hours, whatever it is. You got to, or don't show up.
So you take your $20 bill and you go to the theater to see a movie, and you buy some popcorn and you have a drink and you watch whatever the movie is.
Yeah.
You've been entertained for $20. And I go to the independent shows around here, and I take my $20, and I just want to be entertained. And if I have a chance to learn something or talk to one of the wrestlers or maybe befriend someone, that's awesome. But it's entertainment. And you cannot deny that. It was not like it wasn't entertainment in the 20s or 30s. People were still paying to go see it. So it was entertainment. And I read an interview a long time ago with, I think it was Killer Kowalski, and he said, the object of professional wrestling is to physically subdue your opponent. And yeah, okay, wavy gravy in there, but still, that's what it was.
Yeah. Wes, I don't want to keep you anymore. We've gone way over what we promised you.
Oh no, I'm good. Whatever you want.
Okay, no, that's cool, Chris. This is unbelievable. We've been waiting for someone to talk to us about what we're talking Maple Leaf Wrestling and all of that, because it was really, remember, Chris, we were searching high and low for anyone.
Yeah.
Super.
Yep.
I'm so happy to be. I'm so happy to be with you guys here today. I was looking forward to it immensely.
So,
Well, have we been for over a year, though? Although closely this past week, right? I was inboxing you, Wes. We're all pumped up. We can't wait for Saturday, and here it is. And we're so greatly appreciative of you and your time. And great to meet you and know you. And we're going to work closely together behind the scenes here and help each other out with some guests. And
Ryan McNey, yes. That guy's great. Now, where can I see when does the let's bring it up. the National Wrestling Clipping Alliance is that's on YouTube, right?
That's on our YouTube channel. Yes, we've only been doing it we've been doing podcasts for about a year, just about a year and a half, and we have a guy who does our editing. We just don't have the time to do what you guys do yet. We have sponsors, but it's all in a fun mode, and that's super cool with me. I don't need to. It would be awesome to make money, but we don't need to make money. I don't personally, anyways. I just love doing it. So we have some great. We're doing a cross Canada tour right now on our podcast. We're going from east to west, so we're going to be doing different shows: 70s, 80s, 90s, I think even. And we have Kurt Von Hess's daughter coming on our next podcast. Nice. So that's going to be really good. She's going to talk about being a kid of a heel wrestler traveling.
That's going to be good.
So that reminds us, Wes, we had Kelly Slaughter on one of our most watched shows, right, John?
Oh, wow. Yes, I've seen her on Facebook, and I unfortunately, Facebook is harder and harder to find real people.
I know.
So, I mean, we're getting scammed and cloned or whatever all the time, right?
Well, I will refer you to the real people that I've known over the past year of doing this. And Kelly Slaughter is great. What she does nowadays is like a American Ninja Warrior type of thing. She's awesome. And she will talk about her legendary father, as we know.
Yep.
Super Destroyer Mark II, aka Sergeant Slaughter.
Yep. I love the mask of the pictures of him in the AWA because his chin sticks out so far. Everybody knows who it is, right?
Yeah, and then he had the match where he had to take the mask off, and you can, Sergeant Slaughter, right? Yeah. Bob Remus.
And I love Lord Alfred Hayes too as the manager. Holy cow, he was hysterical to me.
And the funny thing about him was he was great when they came to International out of Montreal. He could speak French, which was super cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
What?
I also have Wes. I also have a lot of those George Cannon Superstars of Wrestling shows. Yep. I have a ton of footage, right, John?
Yes, we're gonna talk all day because now I want to go down the road of managers because I love managers, and they don't. And now if you watch wrestling, there's no managers anymore. Really, you don't have them.
Well, I got one that Wes definitely knows. John, though. You know him as the Grand Wizard of Wrestling, but I also know him as Abdullah Farouk.
Yeah. What a mouthpiece. And I think Farouk was the best manager of all time, or one of the best managers of all time, because he wasn't a wrestler. He wasn't a guy who morphed from the ring because of injuries or whatever, got old or whatever. He was always a commentator in his younger days. And then he morphed into like a fantastic figure for wrestling for a long, long, long time, right? And it was sad because he could talk. He could really talk. He was so good. And he was great as a Grand Wizard, too.
Yeah, I mean, I was sad that he died in 1983. I don't know what happened there, but I remember Vince McMahon Jr. saying all of a sudden the untimely death of the Grand Wizard of Wrestling. But I love him.
Don't know if we'll ever know what the real reason was. We have, rumors, but rumors are rumors. They're not necessarily the truth.
Right. All right, Wes, we should let you go. We appreciate you so much, Wes Maidment. I know you got to go check out his the YouTube page, National Wrestling Clipping Alliance. Let me bring it up again because now we're fans of. Well, we're big fans. I'll be there all the time, and
I've checked it out. I'm on his Facebook page. It's awesome.
Me too.
We wanted to share wrestling history, and I there's people who on Facebook, and you guys will probably know this. There's people who take something from somewhere else and they don't put the credit down, or they don't say I got it from here or there, and that's not right. But it's like someone filming your bit of your podcast and saying, "Oh yeah, I did this or I did that or something." Yeah. Sharing is going to keep it alive. And talking about it's going to keep it alive. So, we have to keep this history alive. And I have a mark. I'm a mark for clippings. I always have been. And ever since I can remember. And I don't have that many original, maybe a few hundred clippings. But, excuse me, doing the research is so much fun. And I love posting just the most benign, out of the world things on our pages, and that's one of the reasons why I put so much time into it. Don't tell my wife.
Well,
My wife said she's going to bury me with all the DVDs I got.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are in trouble. Luckily, yeah. I'll tell you what, man. I love it. This has been great, Wes. You don't have no idea how much we appreciate you being here. How much
it's been all my pleasure.
So you have a good one out there, and you're in the middle part of Canada. Beautiful country, I'm sure.
It's flat. It's weird. It's not like as I've only been here for a year and a half, and it's different, but we moved for family, and we're dealing with it, but it's beautiful in its own way. It's not Southern Ontario.
Right.
And I'm never going to get to Buffalo ever again in my life, or Niagara Falls. I love Niagara Falls. Who doesn't love going to Niagara Falls to watch the water spill over the edge of a rock?
Yeah, as long as you stay on the Canadian side. Our side here, unfortunately, has turned to a situation that you almost have. It's almost like what is it, like Escape from New York type of thing. So sadly, but the Canadian side is beautiful. Yeah,
that's too bad. And we used to partake in having some fun over in Niagara Falls, New York, back in the day when I was a misspent youth, and there were some great places to go in Niagara Falls. But yeah,
times have changed, sadly.
Yeah.
Sadly, yeah. All right, Wes, we'll let you go. Have a great Saturday.
Thank you very much for having me on. It was all my pleasure meeting both you guys, and we'll stay in touch, and I'll see what I can do about putting you in touch, at least, of course, just on typing with Brian McNee.
That's great.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes, take care, Wes. Have a good one.
Take care, Wes.
All right, Chris, what a show.
Yeah, that's just great. Yeah, we can go on and on with names and managers and everything else. I mean, but yeah, what a great guy.
We filled the full hour, Chris. I knew it was going to happen. There's no way we wouldn't, because this is just unbelievable stuff.
Right.
I will say this, and I don't know how you feel about it. I think I know how you feel about it. But Maple Leaf Wrestling, more than any of them, I think was there was something about it, because, the Midnight Wrestling, the wrestling out of WOR in New York, sometimes at a young age, I wasn't able to see it because it was too late. My mother would make, whatever.
Yeah.
But that Maple Leaf Wrestling, wow. And I wish I'd have went to Maple Leaf Gardens for more than just hockey, because watching it on TV, remember the big ramp, as you know, it would always look like it was from another world. It was always so dark in there. It was just see the ring.
Bring down the house lights. Yep.
The Odd was like that a little bit too, though, I will say.
Yeah, the Odd was like that when they had they want to call it the Jumbotron of the day, the scoreboard with the 6 lights on it when you go see a wrestling match. Yeah.
So good. All right, man. We should probably wrap it up here.
Yeah, and before we do that, let's always thank our fans, each and every one, on all our platforms. Of course, here on our home and Facebook. And also our Twitter is growing. Our Facebook is up to 33. We're going towards 100. So thank you all. Twitter, yes, at Count Anywhere is our Twitter. That's going. Our YouTube channel, where you can see not just this show, but all of our shows. Friends with the Z there, Media Network. And my son Christopher has told me that so that's a plus.
Absolutely.
And also we're on Spotify. And John, let's close us out with our what do you call of the week? I can't think.
Public service announcement. But quickly, real fast, don't forget, if when you're watching the show now.
I forgot. See,
you can help the show, which only helps us with technology. That's all we're doing it for. Because we're obviously, just like Wes was saying, no one's here. We're not making money. It just helps us with our technology, make things bigger and better. Maybe we can go different places, and also help, like I say, just with technology. You can give us Facebook stars for 99 cents. We get 100 stars. And that's great, because it goes right back into the shows. And then, too, it gives us like a certain level of, I don't know, what would you call it? Clout or something on Facebook. So the more stars you have, the great it is. If you got a chance, 99 cents, throw us some stars. And our thing of the week is going to be mental health. 844-794-3812. That's anywhere. 844-794 844-794-3812. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're there waiting for you. I know someone whose friend used this, and they stayed on the phone for hours with them. So anyways, there's counselors there standing by. Depressions, bad thoughts to yourself, all that stuff. Everyone has anxieties. Give that a call. And before you do anything or think of anything, or even if you just, before you even lay down and think, I don't want to get up, whatever, give them a call and see, they'll help you. So that's 844-794-3812.
Yes, very good. Thank you, John, of course.
Yep. So, Chris, we'll be back next week with our, of course, back in the saddle. Our guy, Charlie Turner, will be here. And
we have a guest rejoining us, former guest, a friend of the show, Mr. Jannard Soli will join us. And we got some great guests all the way until April. So definitely want to stay tuned each and every Saturday here.
Yes, incredible guests, big names. All right, why don't we get going? It is Saturday, everybody. Have a good one. And Chris, I'll be talking to you.
Yes, take care. Stay warm out there.
Yep, and of course, don't you dare miss it. That was fun when he said that, right?
That's right. Yeah, the catchphrase of Billy Red Lions, don't you dare miss it.
That's what you say about this show. All right, everybody, take care.
Right.